Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and today's episode is going to be part 3 of the Leyland Cars all model catalogue from 1977. Hello and welcome back, and if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car knowledge, car brochures, please consider subscribing. It is completely free, really helps you find the videos you want to see and helps the channel grow and give you better content. Anyway, back to today's episode. Proving quite a popular one, this one. We're up to part 3 of this quite a quirky 1977 Leyland Cars brochure. So let's see where we're up to and let's go further. And today it seems to be like we're up to the Austin Allegro. So starting off, just a bit of a reminder for those who've not seen previous episodes. This very colourful and almost childlike front cover of this Leyland Cars all model catalogue, very much a cover of its time, and yes, this is from 1977, featuring a huge array of Leyland cars. We've had a couple of episodes so far, so indeed if you have missed those, I'm going to do a link at the end, although in reality I don't think it really matters too much what order you actually watch these in, but I'll do the links at the end of this brochure and then I'll link them all together so they're all easier to find. Anyway, let's see where we're up to. So like I said, this is the 3rd episode. We arrive at the Austin Allegro and we're barely into this brochure. It's going to be a long series, this one, so I'm glad so many people enjoy this brochure as much as I do, because it is indeed one of my favourite brochures I actually own. We've already looked at the minis, we've looked at the Maxi and the Princess. An unusual kind of order. Now we arrive at the Austin Allegro, a small family car. Let's just zoom in on the main image. So the Allegro arrived in 1973 and ran all the way till 1982, and in traditional Leyland Cars brochure, I think it was a pretty old-fashioned, out-of-date car by the end of the run. Now, these though, in this 1977 brochure, would actually be the Allegro 2, which ran from 75 to 79. And then there were the Allegro 3 as well, from 79 to 82. But I think these Allegro 2s were actually my favourites of them all. Now, the Allegro has always got a lot of hate, but I've always liked it. A lot of hate for this bulbous design, lots of hate for the Quartic steering wheel, which was ridiculous because the Quartic steering wheel didn't even stay that long. It was dropped in 74, so by the time the Allegro 2 had come out, that had long gone. And even thinking about the Quartic steering wheel, it didn't get much love at the time, because who wants a square steering wheel, everyone used to say. But if you think about it today, I think it was a very much ahead of its time design, and sometimes designs that are indeed ahead of their time get a lot of criticism. And now we look back, well, certainly I look back and think, oh, it's quite cool actually. You can see Quartic steering wheels on modern cars, you can see Quartic steering wheels on Formula 1 cars, so I don't think that was anything particularly bad, but I think it was always associated with that Quartic steering wheel, which is like a square steering wheel to give you more room to put your legs in. It's flat at the bottom, made sense. But like I say, dropped in 74, so even these later ones were always, oh, yeah, have a look at your Quartic steering wheel. It doesn't have one. This is also an unusual one. If you notice, it's a 2-door model. You don't really see too many 2-door Allegros, do you? Now actually, the design of the Allegro, I have always loved the design of the Allegro, although lots of people say, oh, it's a fat bulbous design, look at it, but I always quite liked it. Having said that, Harris Mann actually penned it to be another of those wedge type designs, think Princess, although I don't know, if I particularly like the design of those wedge type designs. I think this has probably aged better than if it had a wedge design. What do you think anyway? Anyway, it was designed like this because BL management being a bit as they wanted to put old things on there, so the old E-Series engine had to fit in there. The heater, the big bulky heater from the Marina had to go in there, so it had to have this more rounded bonnet rather than a low line bonnet, hence the design. But like I say, I've always actually really liked the design of this. The other thing it was kind of like intended to have really was a hatch, but like the Princess, oh no, we can only have the Maxi being a hatchback, we can't have this being a hatchback, they'll compete with each other. Again, always a silly thing. I mean, someone, rather an intelligent comment we had last week about this, why didn't you just, make them different engine sizes and they wouldn't compete against each other, which, makes sense, but BL management never made a whole lot of sense. But certainly if it was a hatchback, it would have been a lot more practical car at a time when people really wanted hatchbacks. But looking back, it is what it is, and like I say, I've always really liked the Allegro. I think overall it was a great little car. Now let's have a look at some of the text. Now it's a very eccentric sort of brochure, this one, very quirky, and it starts off saying economy motoring in the grand manner. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but anyway, economy motoring in the grand manner just about sums up what ownership of the Allegro means. But there is more to it because performance comes into the reckoning, as does versatility and carrying capacity. You have 9 models, 7 saloon versions, 2 estates from which to choose the particular degree of economy, grandness, performance or versatility you want. With all models you get the same forward-looking design concept, attractive styling that cannot be mistaken for any other make. You get reliability and just before we move on, it's true, isn't it? You would never mistake the Allegro for anything else. But anyway, you get a reliable and economical transversely mounted engine driving the front wheels, plus smooth hydrogas independent suspension. This gives you the double advantage of excellent control and road holding with maximum space in compact overall dimensions. In fact, you get a style of family motoring that could add a distinctive touch to your lifestyle. A browse through the next few pages will show the chief differences between models and give details of their respective specifications. So let's open the brochure up and see how it shows this range. So it starts by giving us a look at sort of the smaller engined models. I'm going to start reading up here, then we'll probably move on to look at some of the images and then come back to the 1300s. So it starts by telling us the 1100 Deluxe is available in 2-door or 4-door form and is, what is common parlance, will be termed the basic model of the range. It is certainly the most inexpensive of all the versions and represents notable value for money. But basic? With such a full specification, look at some of the features. Underbody protection and wax injected body sills, radial ply tyres, front disc brakes, knit backed expanded vinyl wearing surfaces for all seats, fitted carpets, face level fresh air vents, heated rear window, coat hooks, vanity mirror, hazard warning lights and so many more items to make your economical motoring anything but economy class in comfort, convenience and safety. The 2-door version will suit owners who need complete security in the rear compartment, safety for children for instance, or who rarely use rear seat accommodation. But for the grown-up family where greater access to the rear seat is required, the 4-door model is the obvious choice. You read that and then they give you a 2-door estate, which was very common at the time, but like I say, I don't really understand why two-door estates were really such a popular thing. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the images. A peep inside of the 1100 dash, and of course notice a normal steering wheel. Fancy that. It also shows the interior, and this is going to be your 1100 Deluxe 4-door interior. It's pretty basic. Seats don't look the most comfortable, I must admit. Images, if we just zoom in right to the back there, this is looking like a 1300 two-door Super, which is a model which we're going to talk about in a moment. It also shows my favourite Allegro, I must admit, the Estate, in this case a 1300 Estate. And then this rather attractively coloured 1100 Deluxe 4-door model. Anyway, let's learn a bit more about the 1300 Super Saloon and Estate. So in the 1300 Super, you again get the choice of 2 or 4 doors. You also get more power from the 1275cc engine, but with economy virtually equal to that of the 1100. There are reclined front seats, reversing lamps, so yeah, reversing lamps on the Allegro too, cigar lighter, a double coach line, and appropriate badging to distinguish the 1300 from its less powerful sister model. For motorists with outdoor interests or other needs for extra carrying capacity, there is the 1300 Super Estate. Here you'll find all the virtues of the Super Saloon with the added versatility provided by a folding rear seat and the ability to have a flat load floor when the need arises. The high lift tailgate gives unrestricted accessibility to the spacious carpeted rear compartment, and the overall styling of the 3-door body is aesthetically pleasing, as well as being practical in every way. It then goes on to show us the interior with that folding seat of the 1300 Estate, or 1500, but we've not talked about the 1500 yet. Anyway, so that's how it kind of like introduces the more basic models, but when we turn the page we kind of like get the larger engined, sort of more luxurious versions of the Allegro, starting with the Allegro 1500 Super Saloon and Estate. So let's have a look at that now. So we move up to the Allegro 1500 Super Saloon, moves you up into the economy luxury class of family or business motoring. Again, there are all the individual Allegro features already indicated. By now you could easily imagine yourself in a much more expensive car. A lively performance from the 1485cc transverse OHC engine is matched by mechanical refinement and welcoming interior. Additional features include 5-speed gearbox, servo assistance for the brakes, and a folding centre armrest for the back seat. So certainly worth moving up to the 1500s for that 5-speed gearbox, I think. And indeed, like the Maxi, I kind of think a 5-speed gearbox, although nothing new, is certainly, I think, ahead of the curve, because remember, this is 77. The super characteristics of the Saloon are transferred to the Estate car, which combines the same performance, economy and comfort with the all-purpose adaptability that comes with this type of vehicle. When all seats are in use, the Allegro 1500 Super Estate provides a working load capacity of 10.25 cubic feet from the waist down. This increased to a generous 53.06 cubic feet with the back seats folded down. Your luggage or sports gear travels just as securely as you do. Again, sadly, the Estate appears on the crease, but I'll find a better image of the Estate at some point. But yeah, I do really love the design of the Estate. Like I said many times, I can never understand why you get a 2-door Estate car. But I do love how you get that really long window, a bit like an Escort, you know, the 2-door Escorts, Mark II Escorts. You got a long window. You did with the Allegro, but I find the Allegro design far more interesting than an Escort Estate. There we go. I've said it. I prefer Allegro over an Escort estate. Who would imagine? But I think it's such an interesting design. This particular estate, of course, is the 1500 estate. And next to it, the 1500 saloon. Next to it we get the 1500 saloon interior, and certainly that fabric makes those seats look a lot more comfortable. And a similar sort of story with the 1500 estate interior. Moving down to the more luxurious models, you can pay a lot more for other cars and get a lot less for your money than the Allegro 1500 Special. What makes it special are the extras you get at the standard price. Extra good looks come with vinyl roof coverings, black panel on the boot lid and special wheel trims, extra comfort and safety with built-in cushioned head restraints, extra appeal with equipment like twin fog lamps, twin door mounted mirrors, centre floor console with electric clock, boot lamp and boot floor carpet. It goes on to tell us if you're a motoring enthusiast and discriminating with it, we think you'll be impressed by the Allegro 1750 HL. It offers a combination of technical merit, super comfort and fast economical performance that few comparable cars can match at the price. Its long list of features is impressive enough, but more impressive still is a drive in this real beauty of a motor car. Now, I've said that I quite like the design. I think real beauty might be pushing it a little bit though. But don't try it if you have no intention to buy. You could become disillusioned with pricey cars which offer less. Okay, so we just move the camera across. Unfortunately it's on a crease, but I'll find a better picture in a moment again. But a really nice, attractive coloured Allegro. A really nice spec, this one. This is a 1750 HL with a vinyl roof and these interesting wheels. I do like that. And next to it is the nicely spec but smaller engined 1500 Special, again with that vinyl roof. And if we just pan back, this is really a reminder really that these cars are used again and again for different brochures, because I have got another brochure with that exact same model. So this is actually a brochure from exactly a bit more actually, more than a year earlier to our all model range brochure. But obviously it's the same car, isn't it? That 1750 high spec version. Those interesting wheels, fog lamps even on this one, haven't we? Vinyl roof. So particularly a nice example, and I do like it in that colour, I must admit. Interesting that this year earlier brochure is also showing that exact same 1500 Special, and I do like the Special and the HL. They do look a little bit different, and I do like that vinyl roof, very much of their time. Those fog lights are a little bit weird, aren't they? And it has a close-up of those fog lights. So surprisingly, not really tacked on as an afterthought. They've kind of like tried to hide the sort of fitting with this like cover over the top. So they do look a little bit unusual. Peep inside there, that is the 1750 HL interior. You can see there a rev counter, something that the Princess certainly missed out on. And then there is the lovely interior. I think the Special and the HL had a pretty similar interiors, but it's certainly the higher spec model interior. If we just move back, I mean, it talks about a clock, doesn't it? And you can kind of like just see it here. I don't know why they didn't feature a little bit better, because they do go on about this little clock, and it's just down here. But I do have a better picture of that as well. That is your clock it's talking about in this unusual position, and this particular one is the 1500 Special. But of course, luxury didn't stop there with the Allegro. In fact, let's forget about the Allegro altogether and just call it the Vanden Plas 1500, or Vanden Plas if you prefer, with this unusual front grille. Let's have a zoom in at that. Now, I'm not exactly convinced that these particularly suited that big grille grafted onto the front end, but it certainly makes an interesting car, and to be honest with you, I would happily own one, but the bordering looking a little bit ridiculous with that front end on there. I think personally I would have preferred the HL over these, but they certainly make for a very interesting model with that grille on there. This particular unusual example is also featured in this particular brochure from 76 for just the Vanden Plas 1500, and indeed if we turn the page we get a really nice big image of that particular Vanden Plas 1500. But anyway, let's go back to our main brochure. So the Vanden Plas 1500 or Vanden Plas, we shouldn't really call it an Allegro, really. It's kind of like here as a separate model entirely, but I think we should include it with this episode. It tells us good breeding that is unmistakably British. The famous coach building firm of Vanden Plas have been practicing their craft for many generations. Their list of past and present customers reads like a who's who and includes some of the world's heads of state and other very important people. Current production centres around the majestic Daimler and the Allegro based 1500. So you will be in illustrious company with your Vanden Plas model, and among the comparatively few motorists who can claim to own an authentic product of the coach builder's art. The car is totally international in concept. It would look equally right in Rome, Paris, Vienna, or any other of the great capitals. I'm not really convinced by this, but let's continue. Yes, its traditional good looks are unmistakably British. That remarkable compact exterior makes for extreme ease of handling in city traffic or down winding country lanes, but there's ample room inside to make touring pleasurable and relaxing. The Vanden Plas 1500 is not particularly cheap, so it's going to be a lot more expensive than your standard Allegros, but then you expect to pay a little more for specialist treatment, so just getting used to the idea that it's going to be a little bit more expensive, this car. Then we've got this smaller rising, which I think we should read before we go on to the images themselves, which are absolutely fantastic. The word luxurious is frequently misused in its application to the interior of motor cars, but no other would be sufficient justice to the Vanden Plas 1500. Closely fitting tailored carpets laid on felt cover the floors to provide extra soundproofing, as well as comfort and good looks. The stylish seats are upholstered in knit-backed expanded vinyl with wearing surfaces of fluted, high-quality hide. Front seats recline and there are armrests for all occupants. The handsome walnut finish of the fascia is carried through to the door cappings and to the practical picnic tables incorporated in the backs of the front seats. Then there's the technical specification, the 1485cc OHC engine for performance with economy, rack and pinion steering with servo assisted drum disc brakes for safe control, hydro gas independent suspension for smooth riding, a fifth gear for relaxed cruising. And then it sums it up by saying it's all there in the Vanden Plas 1500, everything you would want, everything you'd expect. Now when you move on to the images of the interior, you kind of forget and forgive that crazy grille on the front of an Allegro. It's really a very beautiful looking car on the inside. I think you would buy it for the inside. That's what really shows it off. Picnic tables, as you can see, 5-speed gearbox, and then more images of that lovely interior. In fact, if we move back to our Vanden Plas 1500 brochure itself, They are exactly the same images, just slightly higher quality images, and even a huge fold out sheet that kind of like shows this a really big image of the interior, really showcasing it, because that is why you would buy it. Front and rear armrests, even walnut. It's really a beautiful interior. Although surprisingly no headrests. We'd even got headrests in the 1750 HL, didn't we? So in some ways that was a better model, and also that was a larger engine, the 1750. This is just the 1500 at this time. And then we get the specification, a bit of a glimpse of what comes next in this all-range brochure. The magnificent Marina. We'll pick a few things out from the specifications. I don't want to spend too long because this particular brochure review episode is getting a bit long. But really more of a reminder than anything else that you can get an 1100 Deluxe with a 1098cc 45 bhp engine, 4-speed gearbox, with the only option being a brake servo. The 1300 Super Saloon Estate with a 1275 54 bhp engine, again 4-speed gearbox. You can option those with a brake servo and metallic paint if you wish. Your 1500 Super Saloon and Estate with your 1485cc 68 bhp engine, 5-speed gearbox now. Your optional extras being metallic paint and automatic transmission now. Your 1500 Special with the same mechanicals as the Super. Your 1750 HL, apologies, it is on the crease, but that goes with a 1748cc 90 bhp engine. That came with such options as metallic paint and a laminated windscreen. And then finally your Vanden Plas 1500, same mechanicals as your 1500 Super Saloon. Your options being automatic transmission, metallic paint finish, a radio with twin speakers, and head restraints. Oh, there we go. We could have head restraints on that as well, but we had to pay a little bit more. So we'll just wrap this one up with a quick look at what the Allegro 3 looked at like. Kind of like a bit long in the tooth by now, and I never really liked the Allegro 3 as much as the 2. Kind of like loft something. This is your HL models with your twin lights. Although your lower spec models did have those rectangular headlights, lots of black on there instead of chrome, and I kind of like think it lost something, I think, for me. But this brochure does at least give us a better look at the estate version with that big rear windscreen, side window I should say, which really made it a very standout look. There was really nothing like it. I do always really like this model, even though I always say, what's the point of a 3-door estate? It was certainly a little bit more interesting. Again, I preferred the Allegro 2 personally. I'm not really keen on all this extra black and bits and pieces they added on there to really give it a longer life when it should have really been axed by now. So there we go, the Allegro in this 1977 all-range brochure. We haven't moved on much because that was a really big section for the Allegro, and as we've seen, next week we're going to be looking at the Marina, maybe another model, see how time goes for us. Huge range though at this time for Leyland Cars, and you could argue the Maxi, which we looked at last week, this, the Allegro, and next week's episode for the Marina. You could argue all three of those models were actually replaced by one model, the Maestro, when that came out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today, and quarterlight, and if you've not done already, please consider subscribing. It is completely free. As a thank you, I've added a couple more boxes there for other episodes. But for now, we'll say, take care, thank you for watching, all the best, and goodbye.